everything will be understood and designed toward that as we go forward for any of the concepts to make sure that how we design it will withstand the climate of Wyoming.
But just to be clear about this, the lettering and so forth is on some sort of a plastic, or is it a metal?
Metal. We'll be using the same criteria and materials that will probably be rated for the Department of Transportation on highways and freeways.
I have a question. This is Carol Merrill. Would you have a color on this metal? How is that color implemented into the metal or put onto the metal?
There's a couple of different processes that can be painted. There are fiberglass panels, which are panels that are used consistently by MUTCD, the Department of Transportation, for like stop signs and that type of stuff, that actually come in colors that are very close or similar to your actual brand color that we were looking into. And I believe there's also isn't there a printing?
Yeah, there's a printing into there's some latest technology of printed materials that can be applied to metal that could withstand up to a 20-year warranty. But we will use things like powder coating, even paint. We can use, but it has to be at an auto paint level, and all those will have anywhere between a 10 to 20-year warranty. And those are the type of suggestions we'll give toward that part of the property. So once the concept is decided upon, and then the whole fabrication levels and all those concerns that you guys have, we are concerned about the same thing. To be concerned about, we will suggest all these processes that will meet those criteria.
Okay, thank you.
This is Kevin Kelty again. I had one more question. I like the idea of the wind passing through these signs, but in just looking at the diagrams and looking at, and I particularly like lettering in the parking lots. I think that's great as one extra way to find yourself around. But when I was looking at the really open signage in the parking lots on those poles, I thought that was pretty confusing. Is that a misperception of mine, or would solid signage in those areas actually be better for actually recognizing what letter it is?
Because they will be fairly large, they would be fairly identifiable in those areas, even with having those types of pass-throughs. They're made to be at a larger size. It's not like they would be small signs up on those poles, so people would be able to see them even with, either the cutouts or like the perforated metal ones.
There is one version. I think it's toward the pole signs. I think it was option 3. That it is a solid letter form, but with a perforated background. This method has been used at airports, stadiums, in cities that have the same or even worse wind load type of situation, where the perforated or the cutout letters have been used in. So they're very recognizable,
Yes.
and others have not, in those situations, haven't had issues with it. But we will do a prototype if that's the direction that the college wants to see before we do several hundred of these, to put one up there to take a look.
Good idea.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Christine, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Lummis. The state sign shop is in my department at YDOT, so I'm very familiar with these materials and the MUTCD. Is this material reflective?
Yes, we recommend reflective letters onto the vehicular, and the reflective panels and reflective letter in the vehicular sign system. And we also suggest reflective type in the pedestrian corridor, because of the ambient lamps out there, the exterior lamps out there will have a nice flood on these signs.
And the guarantee guarantee on the reflectivity. The new signs that we're using are getting better, but part of my guys run around the state all year long with these guns, pointing them at the signs to see how much reflective capability is left. How long does your product last? The reflectivity.
We'll recommend the same things that are being specified by the Department of Transportation for whatever the highest level of it is of the warranty. There won't be anything new. We don't have anything different from what is being used on the road right now. The MUTCD and the DOT tend to every year work with 3M, the maker of probably the lead of the reflective film. And then there's the Arlon and Avery that also has a brand. But right now, we would probably suggest the leaders, which are 3M, and they are currently and always improving on its quality and its reflective quality.
You're right.
Thank you very much. Trustee Mosier?
This is Ed Mosier, and I was just wondering two things. First, the various concepts that you've presented, at what point do we know whether some of these concepts tend to run a higher cost than other concepts? And secondly, I hope an unintended consequence of some of those holes in the signs would not be that we have a symphony in the walkway.
It'd be an extra bang for our buck, probably.
So I'm looking for the cost. That will you be, are some of these concept 1 more expensive than concept 5? And I'm not asking for dollar amounts, but just generally what those costs are likely to run.
That was if not the number one, it was in the top 3 criteria by the committee. And but also the request during the criteria was also a branded sign system. Obviously, the cheapest would be a pole and a panel, but including some of the other criteria of being a branded system and having a voice for the campus and making it unique, it is going to be a little bit more expensive. Now, as you saw going through option 1 through 4, that's probably how from not only simplest but least expensive to the most expensive, 1 through 4. By choosing available construction material instead of having to make custom make certain poles and those types of methods, this will be a little bit more economical, and the poles will be much more available and able to even be stocked within maintenance if need be. So we are looking at all those criteria. Actual numbers will not, we can't even guess on it until a direction is picked by the committee that we can go move forward to. And even that, there will be other methodologies put into it to even reduce the cost even more as we move forward.
This is also kind of where our fabricator partner will help us. Once the direction is chosen and that type of stuff, he can really help us to value engineer these signs and make sure that, not only does it maintain kind of the intent of what the sign is, but it also is cost effective.
And last comment on that, and it relates again to cost a little bit, but you alluded to it with almost every concept, but the flexibility for changing some of that signage, that's also, I would assume, a consideration in there.
Yes, that was one criteria that was very important with the committee, and we explained with this committee that you either have the ease of taking out a whole panel or the ease of switching out individual messages. I think when it gets really costly, where a lot of universities probably about 10 years ago made the mistake was building these beautiful dimensional cans and lighting them from the inside, and it's the signs that you probably see at a tier 1 mall. But to replace or change names was very costly. In fact, it left some of the signs up as is. So these signs are designed in a way where the whole panel can be removed and new names get put on in a very easy fashion, or individual blades can be removed and replaced very easily.
Thank you.
Trustee Kilty?
This is Kevin Kelty again. I just have one more question that doesn't bear directly on these signs, but I thought I heard you say that you had put signage up in cities with a higher wind load, and I would like to know where those places are.
We were out there too, and we felt that wind load, and I thought it was even higher than Chicago. So.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you mean. It's hard to imagine that there's worse.
Well, Chicago may be the windy city, but it's a distant second. I can tell you that.
Madam Chair, if I may, George, Angela, you may maybe step back and then step forward for us, and step back and sort of outline the scope of this project and the work that we engaged you to do, and then sort of talk about the next steps and where we go from here, and how we get from presented concepts to the point where we can start actually looking at implementing signs on campus.
Great. Right now, we're in our conceptual stage of the contract of the exterior only, the exterior wayfinding system, and we also have the interior system that will come right after this. The contract states pretty much a comprehensive wayfinding system for both interior and exterior. We like to work outside in. We like to make sure everybody who comes to this campus sees whatever the chosen sign system is, but then there is a hint of that brand also inside the building. So those are the type of things that we, when designing as a branded sign system, that's how we like to work. So we are now currently at the 3-4 concepts that were presented to the committee. The committee is going to look those over, make their comments of what are the strengths and likes of each and individual one. They were in charge with looking at do they like one over the other, or do they like certain aspects of one and aspects of another, and then there will be a final presentation of which one would be the consensus, as we may say. So for the exterior system, once a consensus is done and a good solid family is had, then that will help drive the look and direction of the interior. And when we got a good, strong design intent package created, that can go for budgeting. And then budgeting will start to give the committee an idea of how much that particular system would be. And then I guess that's where the waters will be tested at that point. And then the report for the interior system should be within about a month. And then as we put all those together, we'll try to hopefully put it all together by the end of December, and hopefully start getting budgeting and I think at this point the contract or the agreement can only go to probably about there. It's like budgeting. You'll get a good solid design intent pack that can go for bidding and getting good solid numbers. Fabrication schedule will come after that.
Madam Chair, follow up, George, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we can actually do this in phases as well. And the way that will be presented, we'll be able to look at sort of components that will be associated with budgets in phases or in totality. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. We explained that to the community immediately when we were brought in to present the very first day. No project can be successful or if you do not design in a phased aspect, especially with this campus, because it's ever evolving. We recommend a phased process. Start with what minimally can work to get everybody started. Look at how annual budget and the degree of what the implementations would be. There'll be certain things that I'll say you have to have a start and finish. Like if you come through the front door, you gotta have signs in the middle, and you gotta have the signs leading out the back door. What is that minimal stage? And then we will work out a staging when that time comes, when probably toward implementation schedule and the amount of signs that you guys will look at on the list to say, okay, we got 1,000 signs. How can we pick out 1,000 signs, 100 of them to really make it work right now? You know, that type of theory.
Trustee Kelty?
Well, I said it was just one more question, but I always have another question. This is Kevin Kelty again, and since you've started talking about phasing this project, I'm just wondering if it makes some sense to make the first phase be those signs that are absolutely essential for emergency personnel to find their way around on this campus, because that's the issue that caused me to ask for this presentation 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm glad you stated that. That was probably the 1, 2, or 3. And at first, it was number 1 criteria to make sure that the safety part of this is considered. Well, we actually presented that's not in this presentation. Some ways to make sure safety is taken care of by identifying the security building and making sure that certain things are identified clearly for emergency response. And I 100% agree with you. Those will probably be, or should be, the number 1 on the first phase.
Thank you very much.
I don't know, Madam Chair, I don't know, George and Angela, if you have anything that you want to share to sum up, or Tim, or if anybody else wants to make any comments about it. Well, I'll pause there. George, Angela, anything in conclusion that you want to share with the trustees?
Well, I just want to make sure everybody understands, and as well as, team number 1 is thank you, but to also thank the trustees and thank you guys, but to also for this audience to understand that it is still in its 4 conceptual options for the committee to review it, for you all to also get a taste of it, but it's not written in stone. So comments back in relationship with the client is the best way to solve the problem. So anything that you all see, please write down, submit it to our point of contact is Tim. And if there's other things for us to be really seriously concerned about after this meeting, please do not hesitate to let us know. The more information we know and the more concerns we know, the better we are at solving problems.
Great, thanks, George. Madam Chair, one question that we may have, certainly I encourage you, if you have ideas, thoughts, considerations, those types of things, please do funnel those through Tim. I know the committee will meet again and start to go through the process of refining and identifying the concept to drive us down the road. Let us know what role you would like to have in the process as we move down that road.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much for presenting your presentation. I guess I have a few questions, but they're not for you. They're for our local committee. So thank you.
Great. We'll let you continue on to your meeting if you all don't need us anymore. But if you feel we need to stay for anything further, we'll be glad to.
Thank you. I think we are done, and maybe we'll be giving you a call, or the committee can give you a call. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I reiterate to the committee, and I reiterate to you all, we've had a lot of fun with this, and like I said, the communication.
Beautiful.
If we can keep the communication going, it'll be a successful project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful work.
Yes. I would like to know who's on the local committee, and thank you very much for doing the work, because I think it makes it more simple for the board to have a product.
www.webex.com. Sorry.
So, Tim.
You're out of order.
Yes. Tim, could you please tell us who is on your committee? Stan. Thank you, Carol.
The local committee is made up of Judy Hay, Holly Brugman, James Crosby, Arlene Lester, Ty Stockton, and Carol.
So there are 5 of you? Did I count that right?
Yeah, well,
And you, 6. Okay. I really was sitting here thinking that it makes it easier for us as a board not to have to choose one of the designs, but to have you bring the design to us and the cost. Yes, trustee Kilby?
I'm just curious, what do you think is the time frame for getting this started? I mean,
I thought they said
Mr.
December.
Chairman, Dr. Kilty, every time I give a time frame, Tim loses hair, so. You heard the process in which we'll get to the interior, as soon as we can come up with a concept from this, that'll drive the interior signage. I think it was shortly after the first of the year that we'd have, what are we going to do? And then from there, we have to go through fabrication, procurement, and all that good stuff. And to be honest with you, most of these probably won't be looking at any exterior signage until the weather starts to correct itself this spring. Is that fair?
I like that it's going to be done in phases, because one of the questions that I had for Dr. Schaefer is that we are going to build these new buildings, and how will that interrupt our brand-new signs that are going to be erected? And so phasing it in is a much better idea to me. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, we'll get there. Madam Chair, one more comment, if I may, trying to read through the lines with Dr. Kilty. We're aware of the emergency issues with that. James Crosby and Tim and Carol and other folks in our division are looking at the immediate ways we can mitigate some of those things and trying to find better ways to funnel those emergency traffic on campus. So I know it's a topic that's alive and well, and so it's not that we're going to ignore it until the rest of this gets in place.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Yeah.
just one other thing for the the committee here to look at. When you look through all these wonderful designs, the one thing I do find that I would like to see, I think, but that's what the committee might like, there's not a consistency in always having the trademark, if you would, the eagle. We do LCCC, and on some of the bigger signs, we definitely have the eagle there, but many of them we don't. And I would just wonder whether, and that's something for you guys to discuss, whether that's cost effective, you can do it, but I kind of like to see that carried through. I think that consistency is good.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Trustee Mosier, that is probably the perfect segue into the second component here, which is a quick presentation by Sally Means, who we've retained to help us with the design and hopefully, again, come spring, the construction of the LCCC Gateway improvements. If you remember in the campus master plan, one of the recommendations in there in the identified concepts was to really pronounce the entrance into the campus. And if you think about all the work we're doing right now with the Loop Road, with the placement of the Student Services University Center as the front door, the gateways and the signage, it's to start to drive people clearly to the heart of the campus. And so this is another project that we've been working on. And Sally, are you ready to?
Sure, absolutely. I apologize for being disruptive. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Sally Means. My firm, Breyer Architectural Means, has appreciated the opportunity to work with the campus over the last 7 or 8 years. And in looking to take the vision of the board and the college forward, this Gateway Improvement Project takes, help me with my technology here. This is good old Google Earth and your campus, and this is looking at the two red circles. This is a bird's eye view of the main entries, this one being the west, this one being the east along College Drive. Along College Drive, we've got like 55-mile-an-hour speeds, which comes into play when you would like to create a destination and a very clear point at which people know to slow down and then turn into your campus. This is an implementation of what had been identified in your master plan process. Won't go through that, but here was an aerial view. There was some discussion or considerations as to what might happen at the entries, and that was identified with a concept of create an entry sign, get some landscaping elements at the main entry, and look to articulate those main entries in a stronger fashion. There was a sense that the two main entries would be dealt with in this particular project, but that we would potentially set the tone of what might be an articulation of your secondary entries, and that was addressed in the master plan. And so we have had our eye on that. It's not included in this project at this time, but there's some thought that's been given to that. So here we are. We're on College Drive. And this is about 100 feet away. In our initial kickoff meeting, the visioning that we did with the committee, I kind of did okay, you're 2 miles away, you're a mile away, 500 feet. And it is very non-distinct as to where to turn. The truck is about where the roadway turns, where you're going to turn in. This is as if you're across the street, looking straight on at the west entry. And there's some very important critical infrastructure that you have on your campus. It's very important that you're able to go to the sink and turn on the water. And there's a whole lot of utility and infrastructure. You have a lot of money at this intersection, okay? And what we looked at some very early concepts, studied some very different things visually, and then the committee gave us a direction to work toward, and we have worked carefully to work to not obliterate all the money that you've spent that is buried along here. Right in through here, your water main comes into the campus and follows the loop road. There's a very expensive water meter, very large water meter, and a backflow preventer, all very important elements. You need safe water. You need lots of water on this campus. There's also a point where the fire department could connect at this fire hydrant. And it's protected well with bollards, and we've got a gas line that locates through here. So it's just a lot of things from a utility company. They got here first, and now we're going to work with this. And I think our solution, as we're going to implement it, and I may comment to the infrastructure because it has been a consideration and has caused some consternation with where we're at schedule-wise, but we're moving forward in a manner that I think will be very successful based on we know we've done the right homework and groundwork. So this is a concept that we were resolved to look at, and it deals with 2 walls on the side of the this is the west entry, and looking, there are some existing trees off primarily on the east side of this, and our concept was to layer some evergreens with the existing evergreens, and then bring in some deciduous planting and some fall color in this zone on both sides. Our this is a bird's eye view looking down, so this would be a stone wall with a cap. This right here is a monument arm, you'll see in a minute. And then a lower wall, and then lower plantings, some grasses, and then introduce some bright, vivid color with perennials right at the entry, real close here, to accentuate and give some kind of the, during, obviously the perennials will do well during the summer, but we'll still have the rich color of the evergreens and the stone walls in front of the stone. So this was a concept that the committee was very excited about. They asked us to pursue it with a couple of updates and revisions. We got into all that infrastructure, and if I go back, and this will become important because we're looking to do some things to give you options and choices on bid day. We know that you, within the last 7 or 8 years, installed these very nice, well-lit light poles that light the entryway. They're located in not a real great spot in terms of what we would do at the entry. So we are going to do a bid alternate that would take the light poles that would stand right in front of our key monument arm and the walls, and move it back about 5 feet or 8 feet from behind the wall. This is going to be a cost we're going to need to evaluate once we see how a bidder will take a look at that. This is a rendering of the resolution of taking the initial concept, and this now is a tiered and staggered 3 walls that are staggered in height. The evergreens on the existing are over here, and this actually shows something that would be 10, 12 years out, with additional ponderosa pines planted on the west side. This shows the light pole moved back, and then we've taken the walls. They are staggered and essentially tiered. They are individual walls because we're tiptoeing around the infrastructure pieces so we don't move the water lines or the gas line. We keep everything in place. But we're able, the thought being we don't want to spend money on that part. We'd like to get stone on the walls and be able to get, a nice planning package. The other element we're doing is what I call the monument, or the monument arm. And this is intended to be a sculptural element that works with your logo and creates a vertical nature to the entry. Again, you're driving 55 miles an hour. You need something with some color, some height to articulate and say, oh, I need to pay attention. I need to slow down. It's going to be helpful from a safety standpoint and looking to give an identity to the gateway. And so these are identical battered monument stones with a cast stone cap, and then this is a steel arm with a casting for the logo out at an arc at a height that is not that will be not subject to truck damage. We're matching the YDOT standards for underpasses and all of that. And part of this was to give it some stature at the main entry. It needs some height again. So this was really what we've resolved. Here's a slightly closer view of it. We are going to put standoff metal letters on the stone wall on each side. Those will be something that will be finishing touch. And then as we do our bid alternate for the pole light, the pole light would have been right here in the best place for the entry to occur. And so we are going to, with the bid alternate, do a stone base to that to tie it in, to give it some consistency. So this is the concept that we're working with. We're going to use the stone off of the health science building for the palette and the cast stone look. And then this is the east entry, and this is actually a quarter mile away, 100 feet away. And they're straight on looking in. On this entry, we have the secondary road, kind of the frontage road, turns in fairly close. And here we don't have near as many utilities to work with, which is good, but we do have a very nice gas line that we're going to, again, tiptoe around. We're not going to do things with the infrastructure, but work within it. And just moving on, this is the rendering that shows the exact same concept, the tiered walls. They have a slight curve to them. They have the metal letters across the taller wall that is attached to the monument base and then the monument arm. And looking to give a distinctive entry that reflects the committee's vision and some character that reflects LCCC. In terms of schedule, we're due in just about 2 weeks to give Tim's department a construction document submittal to review to get some final input. We've met with, gotten input from the grounds manager and looked at planting lists, plant palettes, and are working our way through this so that we'll be looking at a bid opening before Christmas, and you'll be evaluating the recommendations for the bid award in one of your January meetings. And ideally looking to get a notice to proceed to a contractor in late January so that the process of getting it built, which will involve some shop drawings up for this monument arm and the logo and the time for the fabrication or casting of the logo. Looking to get it started late spring. Ideally, that would be mid to late April. You may decide you want us to wait and have the contractor start right after classes get out. That's definitely a discussion point with then the goal of being done midsummer so that all of the plant material has time to get well established before the next fall. And you will have a brand new gateway entries by the fall term. Any questions? I could go back and leave you with an image.
Are you going, the roadway itself will be improved, is that correct? The roadway, because I'm really worried about that east entrance, and I expressed that to Joe. It seems quite dangerous, and the traffic is coming by very quickly, and there are 3 lanes there, actually, but when you're turning out left onto College Drive, it makes me nervous about our students, and we'll just be seeing more traffic here as we have more buildings added to the campus. And so I guess my wish would be that we could get some flashing lights to have people slow down a little bit as they approach each entrance.
And
I
I
don't know
think
how to do that.
having the entries have a bigger presence,
Right.
more visual, there's something here, to pay attention to. That aspect we're going to be able to accomplish with this project. We don't currently have in the project any kind of roadway improvements. What I think you are describing, and Tim, you may have already done this. I don't know if there's been discussions with YDOT on some, signage further away with, the idea of looking to slow the traffic. It's a difficult thing because YDOT's mission is to get people down the road. And the discussion with the traffic engineering department as to whether they will allow a reduced speed, it's a process, but I don't know, now that the campus has grown more, maybe that's a consideration to try to revisit with YDOT. But this project will only be dealing with the stone walls, the logo, monument arm, and the landscaping. So that's within what the scope of the project was.
And let me ask just a second question before I call on Don. If we have this other signage there at each of the entrances, would we still need that beautiful logo signage that you're proposing there?
One of the sign panels that they were showing you that was directional. They called it the
Right.
directional signage. The location right here, you currently have one. It's white. It's about this tall
Right.
and about that big.
Right.
That's where it would look really great to have what they were proposing here. Our committee has discussed what would be great once they see the direction of the wayfinding, what would be done there. There is an opportunity to tie in a little bit of planting once the wayfinding signage is placed, and work through that. One of the things that the project is going to accomplish is to bring irrigation water to these areas so that the plantings will survive. These will all be drip systems, which will be very effective with the environment we have to work with. So that's, unfortunately, this project I can't tell you is going to make a direct impact on the roadway.
Okay. I love your drawings. I think they're beautiful. I think they will create a much nicer feel to entering the campus. So I do very much like them. And Trustee Erickson?
Madam Chair, I'd like to continue your comment about the east entrance. That east entrance is clumsy at best and horribly hazardous at worst. It's a very frightening entrance, in my opinion. The fact that the frontage road comes so quickly into that area. All right, I'm wondering if it might not be good for us to kind of look at this area outside the box a little bit. We're going to have a new building over there. And I wonder if there's another way to access the campus other than that immediate location. What I'm suggesting is that there be some thought given to that particular approach. Because, I didn't come out here very often before a year ago. And I'm coming out here a lot. And that has really been a very big concern. And now that we're talking about a gateway at that location, I think we ought to open up our whole discussion here to where that gateway would be placed, whether it should be exactly where it is or possibly moved. So I just throw that out for some additional discussion, not now, but maybe by your committee. Maybe the committee is even your safety people. I don't know whether there's been some consideration of that particular concern at that intersection.
The west one.
Tim, I do have the image, if you wanted to speak to the master plan.
Trustee Erickson, the master plan on the east side gets rid of the, that, at the frontage road coming into on the south side.
It brings it up over
actually
here.
cuts off on the east side of the new Flex Tech building, Industrial Tech, goes down the north loop.
Okay.
And then so your traffic is further, you're turning left and all that, further inside the campus.
So that's already taken care of.
It's in the master plan that way. It's
Okay.
not under design or anything.
No, but
it's in
I-
the master plan.
The problem has been addressed with this schematic.
Yes.
All right.
With the master plan, but not the
Not in
gateway,
this
not the
project or
gateway
not in
project.
this design. Moving that road is in the master plan, but not in this project.
Okay, then that leads to the next question. Should we move forward with a gateway there until that entrance has been modified?
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, I don't know that I can answer that perfectly. Sally, you may be able to help me out here. But the way the gateway is designed at this point, I believe we could move that and relocate that road without disrupting the work that we would do with the gateway now. So let's say, and again, I'm just conceptualizing this, but let's say as we design and get to the point of actually implementing the flexible technology building, the industrial tech building in there, and we take a look at that and we make sure we have finances and all that stuff, and we decide that at the time of construction of that flex tech building and we can move that road, I think we can do that without disrupting what Sally has planned here. Is that fair, Sally?
Yes, it is. Right here is that frontage road, and this is where you have such a short distance, and where if you turn right and then turn left here, it's difficult. And so that was on the east side. One of our criteria was to work, within to the east of that frontage road, to know that it was going to move and not be impacted.
And so, Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, if I may, so at best case scenario, the addition of the gateways and some of the things we're doing to draw attention to that entrance will actually improve over what we have now, even better than that down the road as we implement the master plan. And once we're able to relocate that frontage road, we'll further mitigate the concerns with safety on that road. And I think it is the cross traffic that causes the most concern. I haven't looked at actual accident statistics to see if that one is more dangerous than the other one or what the levels are. We could certainly, I don't know if we've gotten any of that. But it's a complicated intersection.
Trustee Kelty?
I notice you've got two of these logos on this entrance, and I don't remember if you had one or two on the other. But in your presentation, you're calling those castings. Are we really going to get a foundry involved in casting these things?
We're working with a couple of different sign companies looking as to how to implement it. I'm concerned that we do metal and it's rigid, and I'm well aware of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis in terms of wind. So we're working through that as to how that material will be made. So, and yes, a casting was something that was thrown out. Initially, I see it to be a metal fabrication from a sign company here in Wyoming.
They were broken out as a separate item in your discussion there. Are these considered to be a large expense in proportion to the rest of the project?
No, it's just a matter that they're a little bit unique, and what is really important to the character in looking at creating the gateway for the campus. Sorry. And I did identify, in terms of implementation, you might think, well, it's foundation, some stonework, some planting. Why don't we just wait till May to get started? And what's important is that all of the components be ready to install, and because the logo will be a custom element, it's important to allow adequate time so that you don't pay a cost premium for some kind of time rush on getting those components constructed or fabricated.
Any other questions? Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank
for
you. It's
coming
been great to
Thank
work
you
on
the
this.
committee.
Thank you, Sally.
Well, looking
Yes.
forward to see what the entry, what August looks like when all your students come back.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a time for the foundation to get involved with donations for planting. Thank you.
You bet. This was great. Thank you.
President's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Maybe to continue the theme here, as we lead into a conversation of the campaign and the successful election yesterday, I hope that you and like many of us on campus are starting to see, at least from an exterior and from a physical environment, a physical plant environment, what all of these things will do to start to change the very face and the nature of the campus. The gateways, the wayfinding, the buildings, all of those things are intended to start to provide not only that campus environment where students are engaged, but also one that people can navigate easily and understand. And so these pieces will start coming together, and it's kind of exciting when you can visualize and see some of these things and understand where we might go. I just want to say congratulations to the trustees and thank you to you and to the campus and the foundation and all the wonderful people who helped us with a very aggressive, a very comprehensive, but ultimately a successful campaign that led to the positive election results yesterday. And I think it's an exciting time for the campus. It was very fun to be here last night, and it was great to be out in the community this morning and hearing all the positive energy around the election. But I just wanted to congratulate you as trustees and to say we've come a long ways. We've got more further to go. But really a big step in this process, and with that I'll pause there. My interest in bringing it up is sort of to get your reflections on the campaign and what we've done, and then I'll sort of let you know where we're going from here.
From a military point of view, hoorah! I mean, come on, we did something. Everybody did a great job. This was a super effort. And given that, the voters gave us a lot of confidence. They gave us confidence. They think that we are doing a good job. Now we have to deliver. We got to be accountable. We got to deliver what we said we were going to do, and I believe we can do it. Now the other point, excuse me if I may.
Go ahead.
I think it is important to reiterate that this was one step, and we got the work with the legislature, and where are we with the movement of our request in the state? Is it now to the governor's budget? Is that where it's at?
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, it is. So we went through the Wyoming Community College Commission onto the State Building Commission. The State Building Commission considers capital construction projects and makes its recommendation to the governor for consideration as he develops his budget. These projects have been recommended. One issue that came up that's a good opportunity to inform you of, there's been transition between some of the responsibilities for construction management and construction oversight between the commission and A&I, the Construction Management Division. When the State Building Commission met, they were building their conversation off of what the Wyoming Community College Commission had submitted, which included our university and student center up to the level 1. Well, if you remember, we had significant change between level 1 and level 2. 1 because of the architect's error in the calculation, and 2 because of the scope and size. And so, long story short, what it equated to is the State Building Commission recommending the projects, but recommending that project at $26 million authorization, half of that with state funding. The level 2 planning that we did with the Construction Management Division is at $30 million. So there's a $4 million authorization discrepancy and a $2 million discrepancy in state requests. And so we've been working closely with the commission and construction management. I've notified the governor's budget director and the governor's office and others to figure out what's the best way to reconcile this as we move along. But so there is that one little piece in this, and everybody's aware of it, probably more than they want to, and we've got multiple steps to get that reconciled. But so yes, so from from here. The governor will develop his budget, release that early in December. Our indication from him in the meeting with him and the community colleges was, while capital construction may not be the top of his priority list, he will take the guidance of the State Building Commission. From there, the governor will present his budget to the Joint Appropriations Committee. They'll make their considerations and off to the legislature. So those are the procedural steps at this point, and we'll kind of follow that process as we go.
Thank you. And to build on what you said, and I think you said it in an email earlier, and that is we need to keep moving forward. And that's exactly what you said. And I want to thank Joe. He was a tireless supporter of this moving forward. And there were many, many people on this campus that I don't know how they had time to do their regular jobs because they were so involved. And I just feel so proud about it because Sheridan's failed, and I feel really bad for them in their campaign, but we put so much energy. I mean, I was wrung out. So I know that Joe, I got emails from Joe after, I think, 11 o'clock at night and before 7 in the morning. So I know that the man was very, very busy on our behalf. So thank you, Joe.
Thank
you, Joe.
I just have one amen.
Amen.
As a former mayor who's been involved in this community now for the last 50 years, I don't believe that I have had a prouder moment for this community than I had last night. I'm just so proud of the people of this community that went out and voted and passed this initiative. And it just makes it more important for us to deliver.
Amen.
Agreed.
Thank you.
And I might make one other comment. It's important for us to deliver to basically meet the needs of the people who voted against it as well. We should demonstrate to them that it was a necessary project and that it's handled appropriately.
Yes.
I don't want to neglect those people at all.
That's well put. Yeah.
Well, it's been said, Joe, that you did a great job and we've applauded you. I want to just say that most of you know I'm involved in about 9 different boards and different things here in the community, and I tell you what, everybody just was so pleased to meet you because you went and talked to all these organizations, all these people all over town. People know who you are and that you represent the college, and I just want to add my own personal accolade because it's wonderful to be a part of a school in the form of a trustee that has a president that is so well thought of throughout the whole community.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Trustee Du Bois. I appreciate those comments, but it really is the people here that decided to rally around these projects that made them happen. It was all I had to do was show up and talk on many of those days. So the foundation, the advancement staff, the steering committee, the faculty, the students, there were many, many people that really came together to make this happen. And I think it was a team effort. These projects, this campaign, and really the messaging was almost serendipitous in their design because there was something for everybody to get connected to in this process, both internally in delivering the message and then in receiving it. And it was a hard but very enjoyable process. And I think overall, it's the people of the campus that deserve the accolades. But thank you. I will pass along your congratulations to them as well.
Madam Chair, can I say something?
Of course.
2 things to say. First of all, I heard from many members in the community yesterday as they went out to vote that they think LCCC is one of the best things in Cheyenne, and they wanted to make sure that they showed their support for the school. I heard a lot of comments about my grandchildren maybe going there, and I want to make sure that it's in good condition and has the kind of buildings and stuff that it needs. I heard a lot of that. So I think the community is really rallying around the school, and I think you're a big reason for that too. I think Lisa Murphy did an absolutely phenomenal job. And she's brilliant and kept the campaign really positive. I also want to share a comment that we heard from a student at dinner tonight when we were talking about the election. And this student said to us at dinner, when we see this college moving forward, it helps us as students know that we also can move forward. And it helps us also with that same spirit of moving ahead and accomplishment. And I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful message to hear.
And thank you for sharing that.
Madam Chair, a couple more things on my President's report. One, I just want to share with you, it looks like the Wyoming Association of Community College Trustees and the college's legislative agenda is starting to develop, and I know Trustee Mosier can probably share some perspective on this as well, because he's been involved with these conversations. But I just wanted to share with you sort of how the priorities in the agenda are starting to line up, and I don't believe, Ed, that these have been finalized or approved by the board yet, but I think this is sort of what will be in front of the board of the Trustee Association. There are 6 priorities. The first one is really fixing the funding model that we have right now, and many of you have heard me talk about sort of the difficulty we have with that exception request, enrollment request budget that we bring every time, and with an interest in performance funding and some of the other changes to it. The priority that we're really pushing for here is to remove the exception request requirement and instead get to a place where we readjust the base of the model on a more frequent basis. Every 4 years, I think, is what is being recommended, knowing that if enrollment goes up, that base adjustment may go up. If it goes down, the base amount of budget may go down as well. And so I think that stabilization of that and fixing that issue with the enrollment growth request is number one. Number two is salary increases for the faculty and staff at the community colleges. This is in line with the governor's position in the universities. Number 3 is to look at adjustment to major maintenance factor, adjusting the factor in which the funding would be generated. Technical process to ensure that we're getting the necessary funds to actually keep up with the current real estate that we have here on campus. I've been asked this now a couple of times, sort of what's our outstanding major maintenance liability, and looking at the facilities condition inventory from the master plan and what we've been able to address in the couple of years since then. It's still at about a $13 million liability here on campus just to maintain the facilities that we have. And so looking at that factor for major maintenance funding will be the third priority or proposed priority. Number 4, capital construction requests. I don't think from all 7 campuses it rose to the top because there's just a few of us that really have that, as a major issue. Number 5 is seeking additional funds for the endowment challenge match. Many of you know that except for I think one community college in the state, the university and the colleges have exhausted all of the endowment matching funds from the state, and many donors are asking us, is there any more match funds? We're ready to give. Is there any more match funds? And so that'll be a conversation we'll probably have in collaboration with UW. And then the last one, and I don't know if this will make it to the entire agenda, but it's on there, it's campus security and campus safety. And if you remember, we had a lot of conversation about the proposed legislation in the last session. And I'm really proud of James Crosby, our campus safety director, and the work that he's been doing with the Trustees Association and a local member of our delegation, Senator Nutting, and really trying to look at how we can address campus security from a very thoughtful and proactive approach. And right now I know that they are working with her to draft legislation that would have us do an interim study on campus safety, identify those areas that can be improved, and make recommendations for subsequent legislative sessions on how to do that for the entire state. And again, it's nice to see LCCC stepping up to play a lead role in that. So those are sort of where we've landed and discussed as presidents, and I think initially have had conversations with the Trustees Association, but I believe that's what will be recommended, and I'd pause there and see if Trustee Mosier has anything to add, share, or correct.
No, you did a wonderful job with that. I would, if I added anything, I would simply say that we have to remember that each of these items carry a dollar amount, and that's the issue is going to the legislature, is what we're talking about for appropriate funding.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, 2 more quick things. I'm going to jump ahead of item C there. One, just wanted to let you know, if you remember, we brought to you the idea that or the the opportunity, I guess, that Verizon had approached us with installing a cellular tower on the college campus. Just to let you know, they've identified another location, and so they're not looking at the college right now, and so that one's just kind of off the books. And then the last one, I provided you some information, or I shared with you a memo from the fine ladies at Woodhouse Road and in Nethercott, our attorneys, in regards to a conversation and a follow-up that we had when we sort of did a year and a couple of months review of their services and how we've been working together. And then you also have a spreadsheet essentially in your materials regarding the number of tasks and the hours and the work that they've logged as part of their commitment here. And I go down and look at the number of tasks, and I almost feel sorry for you guys, but very grateful for you guys, because I know we're doing a lot of work. That information is here for you just to consider and look at. I know that there may be a few questions for additional information that you will have. I'd ask you to share those with me that you have now. But really what I want to do is get you some information so that in your next meeting we can have a conversation or consideration of a potential of addressing the request from our attorneys. And I don't know, Deb, Tara, if you want to share anything at this point, and before the trustees see if they have questions that can give me some direction on information we could provide on the 20th.
I will go ahead and speak. We're primarily here to answer any questions if you have any tonight. It has really been our honor and privilege to serve as your general counsel over the last year. We had a great review with Joe. We're able to identify some strengths, some areas for improvement. I recall actually when we interviewed with you all, one of our goals was to be more proactive in providing you legal advice versus reactive. And I think that's still an area for improvement. As we continue to build our relationships with Joe, with the board, with the president's cabinet, I think that's starting to happen a little bit more naturally as we identify issues, seek out cabinet, or as cabinet identifies issues and comes to us before they really turn into a problem. So that's an area we would like to continue to grow in. But really, we're here to answer questions tonight if you have any of us.
Yes, Dr. Kelty.
First of all, I want to say I think you guys do great work, and I'm really happy to have you as our attorneys. The other thing, and this is sort of a side issue, but is Nethercott just a recent addition name to this partnership?
Ms. Nethercott became a named partner in January.
How about that?
Congratulations.
Okay, now for the substance of my questions.
Well, I like those softballs.
You know, it seems to me that this is predicated, this new amount is predicated on you continuing the same level of tasks and so forth as you have. And we've had some really unique work in the past year, rewriting policies and just going through an enormous amount of just documents and so forth. Do we really think, is it realistic to suppose that we're going to have that same level of work in the future?
That's an excellent question, Trustee Kelty. I do want to make you aware that the policy work is done as a separate project. So that is not included in the monthly contracted rate, so you're aware of that.
No, I wasn't.
So that's one of those larger projects that would be excluded.
Yeah.
It is hard to tell if our hours will remain the same or continue to grow. We looked at this data over 11-month period. So I think we were high on the initial end because we were getting up to speed with what's going on with the college and what needs do you have. But it really has maintained pretty steady even after our learning curve at the initial part. It's hard to gauge if it will grow. It certainly could, and we're hopeful that cabinet and even you as a board, you're the easiest one so far to help. You're easy, but we're hopeful that actually the cabinet
not
will.
a challenge.
Thank you, Ms. Nethercott. But we are hopeful that cabinet and so forth will continue to rely on us a little bit better, so we are more proactive. We've also identified areas this year. For example, I know an issue came before the board, a contract that we had not yet seen, so we were able to already close that loophole of making sure we're having the right flow of information from your cabinet or your contracts to us. So it's hard to gauge.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair and Trustee Kelty, just for clarification, So one of the things that we've implemented as a process is their review and engagement in policy. The policy that Deb is referring to is the comprehensive overhaul of our HR policy suite. That's the separate contract, and I know that's one of the things that's, you know, been significant workload. And you'll see some of that in the accounting there, the difference between the hourly and the specialized contract. But the actual policy review, and to be honest with you, the way we implement, interpret, and refine our policy is something that I know that they've been involved with, whether it's how we handle Title IX and other types of claims on campus. It's how we navigate contractual arrangements. It's how we figure out how to fix an issue when we give a car away for salvage that ends up driving. I mean, there have been some very, very unique issues that we've had to engage the attorneys in. And
That sounds like the car went on its own.
Yeah, what happened there?
yeah, I wish it. That is a Christmas story conversation that we're going to have. It was interesting. So there's no doubt they've had unique aspects, but they do have the policy role. It's just that with that HR suite, it's a significant bundle of work. And in the contract that you have with them, that's what we had agreed to, was if there's a special project that we believe will be above and beyond the scope of the contract in general counsel services, we would ask them to bid on that, and then we would agree to that. And that's what we did in the case of the HR policies.
If I could ask another question, then, I don't think I was involved in the conversations in which we hired you directly, and I don't know that I've ever seen your contract. And I had sort of assumed it was sort of a retainer, just a monthly amount, and there's no accounting like this generally in monthly retainers. So is that part of the contract?
The contract is a flat rate, if you will, monthly contract. So we agree to do the work, you pay a flat rate. Each month, we actually provide a detailed invoice to the college nonetheless, denoting what projects we've worked on and the amount of hours we've worked on those projects. We simply don't bill that at an hourly rate to you.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
Madam Chair, Trustee Kilty, at that time, the chairman of the board, and it seemed like we had another trustee on that legal when we went out for RFP for this. I'm trying to think who the other one was, but we went through the process to identify both campus trustees. Well, Greg chaired it. Trustees went through, and then when we identified a Gay's firm, the ladies' firm, I should say, when we identified them, it came back and you approved it, and it would have been about a year and how long? A year and a few months.
I think I think it was just September when the contract actually went into effect. I think we interviewed in July or August.
Yeah, but then it did come before you as a board, and and to have you select that, and we can probably dig that out and share it too. But there was some language in the contract that asked for, or required, that when we do pay you monthly, you would give us that accounting, and I think that's been beneficial to both of us as we move forward, decided to know what tasks you're working on, and the detailed allocation of your work.
Yes.
Ed?
My question is probably more for Joe, but you may wish to help him with that. In looking at the spreadsheet, your perspective of the future as we move towards clarification on a number of things that we've had to achieve, and we're still working on some of those, obviously. Is it a likelihood that maybe this 30% increase from what we had projected, and I think it's roughly about 30% in terms of hours, because we're talking about 9 more hours, I think, from the initial was around 28, and if you figure it's about 9 hours in there. I'm just wondering if you see, Joe, in that spreadsheet, and knowing what we've been working with, is that something we probably are going to be stable at? Will it likely reduce, or will it go ahead? And don't give me the economist answer.
I may like Tara to help me with this one. Here's sort of my perspective on it. I mean, I think there's some heavy lifting and some work we need to do, and change will be afoot here at the campus for a while, and that's going to require both legal advice and counsel and assistance in not only navigating the change, but how we create the systems that will accommodate the change and policy work and things like that. My guess is that for the next couple of years, we will see the same level, and possibly with little spikes in there, of work that will be passed on to the attorneys. as things stabilize and as the change stabilizes, it may very well drop off. And I would encourage you as a board, and we'll certainly do this, you know, as we look at the extensions, because it's a 3-year contract with am I right, extension options for 2 years, or is it 5 years with extensions, or?
It's 5 years.
I think that's
It's 5 years.
And then we have the opportunity to extend for so many years. We'll look, I thought it was 3 with 2 1-year extensions, but maybe it's more.
It's very flexible.
Yeah, it's very, very flexible. Short answer is I think that we will find better
No wonder
ways
they
to
made her a
utilize
partner.
them. Yeah. There's going to be plenty of work over the next couple of years, but as we move ahead, we'll have to evaluate and look at that, and we'll have those conversations. And thus far, to be quite honest with you, Gay, Tara, and Deb have all been wonderfully accommodating in trying to figure this out, because I think it's a relationship that's still developing and one that we both find mutually beneficial and enjoy, to be honest with you. And so we'll play that out and certainly see what we can do, but there's plenty of work ahead of us.
Yeah, so it's our advice to have us here more frequently.
I'm surprised at that.
And Trustee Moser, I'm glad you call it the economist answer versus the attorney answer.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I, as trustee Kilty, have certainly seen some fine work that's been provided by our legal counsel. And besides that, Tara's been super in helping me with this machine.
And she's going to charge you extra for that.
But did you notice how much trouble she had with it for a while? She didn't get it right away either.
Okay.
But my question, a serious question is, where's the money coming from? Did we budget this additional increase when we passed the last budget?
Good question.
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, no, we did not. And what we would do is look at vacancy savings, other types of revenues in the current year budget to see if we could accommodate any type of change. And that's part of the work that I have to do, is nail down those sources and have that as part of my recommendation to you if I were to recommend that you do adjust or amend your contract to that amount. Regardless, as we moved into the next budget year, we would have to make that adjustment in the formal budget. But over the course of the budget year, we have revenues that come in higher, we have expenditures that are lower, and it creates some funds that we could utilize for this. And so, as we expected, we're already seeing some changes in that budget. You know, we preserved a fairly liberal adjunct faculty salary line. We're not expending it at the level, and we knew we wouldn't expend it at the level, so there are resources that we would have to actually move to budget. But then going forward, it would be a formal part of the legal services budget.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Carol, does this require any type of reappropriation within whichever budget that this would fall into?
Would it take an entry? Is that what you're asking?
No, would it require some type of a resolution by us to authorize that change? Okay, then.
And not less over 30,000.
Well, they're not quite that far yet.
Oh, they moved up to the table.
I felt the heat. But I would appreciate, though, having an answer more specifically when we have our next meeting where we're going to approve the amendment.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, when I bring you a recommendation, whatever it would be at the next one, it would detail the sources of funds, what we would do with it, at what level, for it. You know, like I said, this is about having that conversation, but I'll certainly bring that information. And between now and then, happy to provide all of you with a copy of the contract as well, and any other questions or information you might want of us.
So what we'll do is we have time for more questions between now and our next board meeting, and even during that board meeting, and that is the board meeting on the 20th that we will vote on this contract. So please bring your questions to Joe or bring them to that meeting. Thank you, Gabe.
Madam Chairman, I do want to say something, but it's not about the contract.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I was just so impressed with this campaign and so happy today when I didn't stay up late last night. But that was the first thing I checked this morning at 5 o'clock when I got up and saw that it passed it. You know, to me, and I watched a lot of these too, and I felt like when Lisa came in here that first day and said, we got it covered, you know, we've got it, don't worry. And she did, and I'm not saying Lisa's only the person that did it, but you know, from the very first presentation that we saw Joe give at the Chamber of Commerce, with all of that information that's so critical, you know, the data about how many people, you know, attend school and what the kind of people that are here, and just all that information was so critical as a basis. And then, you know, I know that he was here, there, and everywhere. And then just the day that the little signs were appearing on people's lawns, I mean, and then I got, you know, 2 things in the mail last Friday, and I'm going, this was so good. I mean, it was so well done. And I'm one of these that, you know, I'm very critical because I'm married to a guy who is. If stuff comes out and it looks like they spent too much money on the campaign, you know, he will vote no, you know, and he let me drive him over to vote yes yesterday. So, you know, and he's an average bah humbug kind of guy, you know, but he likes LCCC. But he could go either way. You never know. And he's my litmus test. And everything that you guys did and all the effort that was put in, you know, it was flawless. It was flawless, and it was beautiful, and it was successful. And it's just a wonderful thing to be part of it. So.
Well, we're glad you're here, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. We're not getting out of here any earlier. This is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Well, under new business, I sat at a table, and I am going to ask Joe, and I asked him before the meeting, but I would like to make this public. The students asked that they get more information about what the board is doing. And there are a couple of ways that we can do that. We used to send a board member to the SGA meetings, but Joe recommended that we have an SGA student sit as an ex officio member at our table here in the boardroom. And I think that's a great idea. Joe is going to check the policy and see if that is possible for us. Is that correct, Joe?
Madam Chair,
Dr. Scher?
members of the board, although I probably would end up recommending that, I just suggested that many boards will engage various types of ex officio non-voting members to ensure that communication loop is there. And oftentimes you will see student trustees, student regents, ex officio student members of the board, and it's certainly an option that would put a student right at the table and a linkage back to them. And if that's something that the board is interested in, I will research and try to figure out the best mechanism to do that.
Okay, thank you. And yes, Brenda.
Madam Chair, one of the comments that we heard at our table was sort of the reverse, which is our students felt that sometimes they didn't have the power to affect change. That when they saw something that needed changed, they could only go so far, and then they said some kind of policy or something would stop them. And so they wanted more access to be able to facilitate change, or somebody who could direct them to do that. So I think this solution, and Bill and Chris and Ed were at my table, so I hope they agree with me, but I think this solution would also help with that too.
Anyone else?
In regard to this specific.
Yes, this subject.
Yeah, I would speak for that too. And then I would add another comment after you finish that discussion. After you finish the discussion of having a student ex officio part of the board.
I would like to charge Joe with that research and to bring it to the board meeting on the 20th, and that we could have more discussion and vote at that meeting to have a student sit on our board as an ex officio non-voting member. Okay.
You bet.
Thank you.
Going beyond that, at our table, we had discussion about student information coming from us to them and from them to us as well. So, Dr. Joe, when we have the movement forward now on the 2 buildings, will there continue to be a task force working with the architect for each of those buildings?
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, yes, not only will we have a steering committee, but as we get into the actual, and I should probably ask Tim, so hit me if I get off track here, there's going to have to be additional groups that will have to work on the unique areas that will actually result in the schematic layout of the different parts. So we'll still keep a steering committee, but certainly there's going to be groups that are going to have to tackle each part of it, special interest groups as we develop that.
All right, then, as a result of our discussion this evening with the students, I would recommend that there be strong consideration of having a student representative on each of those steering committees.
Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, I think we try to encourage that, and we'll do what we can. Yep.
I mean, formalize it. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Do you have something?
Not
Anyone
on this
else?
topic.
You have a different topic?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, is this under new business?
Well, I guess it sort of is.
Okay.
In fact, that's the only place it can fit tonight.
Well, I was wondering.
We got an email from Joe regarding a survey coming up, and it's a survey that they call the Campus Climate Survey, but it was actually the Leading and Communicating Survey. It was out of an AQUIP project, and that survey, I guess, is on deck to be delivered here soon. And I've heard some comments from people on campus, but I've made this comment in the past that I think that survey should be delivered as nearly as is possible to the original. And the reason is it makes it much more easy to compare results that way, and it probably leads to more validity. Now, there may have been some questions on that survey that you might want to remove in some instances, but the section of that survey that's been removed in the past has to do with the president. And I realize that that's talking about, and that's soliciting information about an individual, but golly, the president is a unique individual on this campus, and I really think that belongs in that survey, and that we could keep as many of those questions in there as possible to draw some comparisons to where we were 3 years ago, I guess, or it'll probably be 4 years ago by the time you get the survey out and so forth. So I would urge you to do that just for the sake of a number of things. And the other is, I'm wondering, I've heard a lot from people about changes to the Gen Ed. And I'm just wondering if we've got time on the 20th, you could maybe give us an update on where we stand with changes to the Gen Ed. Just keep us informed of that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Dr. Kilty, I'd be happy to. You got a faculty senate rep here that could probably bring some. Rob's actually been doing a wonderful job at trying to gather feedback and understand from the entire faculty perspective. I know Trustee Mosier joined the faculty forum last Friday on it, so I think we could have a conversation. And just as a heads up, the other thing I'm trying to organize for your retreat on January 24th is to have a more comprehensive presentation on where we're going with Gen Ed at LCCC, possibly even where we're going to be at, and also have a presentation by the university on their new USP program that was approved here, I think, a week ago by their faculty senate. And so Dr. Barrett, who I think is the chairing that process, has agreed to come, and so we'll sort of have a presentation of both Gen Ed programs in Laramie. But certainly next week we can give you, or on the 20th, we can give an update of where we're at. You comfortable with that, Rob? And I'll even ask.
Oh, yeah, no, I was intending to make it part of my
Great.
faculty report.
Yeah.
Certainly we can.
And Jose, should we want to see if Ann or Jeff would like to come? Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Thank you. That
Mhm.
be good?
Yep, that'll be great.
Ed, would you like to say something?
I just wanted to come back with regards to the question about the survey. When that survey is going to run, and are there any other surveys that we're doing? I know we have the board,
Yes.
but is there another one?
Madam Chair, Trustee Mosier, we do surveys at various levels, but to my awareness, I don't know that we have any other major campus survey out. The Campus Climate Survey, or the formerly known as the Leading and Communicating Survey, I believe, I haven't checked my email, but it was going out today, so it's out. I'm sorry. So it's out as well. And I think those are the only ones, and then the people that were involved with the board evaluation, I think are the only ones out at the institution level. I will check again, but I believe we did add 4 questions, but I think, and we talked with you about a year ago, I know, but I think we added those president questions back in, but everything else is the same. We were trying to keep that continuity, and even after we went out to the campus and Anne Murray had conversations with people on campus, folks really felt compelled that instead of doing a random sample, we should continue to keep it sort of as an open survey where everybody can respond. And my plea and really my push to the campus is if we do that, everybody's got to respond. Otherwise, we're limited to basically generalizing to the people that respond to it. And it's not truly a campus climate survey. It's a climate of the people who responded to it. And so we're really pushing for full participation. And I hope we'll get that.
I'd just like to make another comment, though, in regard to what you just said. That first year that we ran it, we got something above 2/3 participation on that survey. And there were undoubtedly people who will remain unnamed who wanted to say that survey was not representative of the campus, but by the time you've got something like 70% participation, you can draw a lot of conclusions from something like that. And let's hope we get something to that same level again.
Madam Chair, Trustee Kilty, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's the question I had both of Dr. Bender and Ann. I said, what's the threshold that we need where we can look at an entire population, throw it out there for everybody to respond and make some type of confidence in our insurance that it's representing that. And they were saying it's about 70% if you were to get that response. Interestingly, we did. It was just over 64%, I think, is the response rate from that first survey. It decreased rapidly in the next 2 subsequent years to the point where very few people responded. And that was the hard part of drawing that correlation, and that's the concern when you don't do the more randomized approach. And so we're really pushing for participation.
Well, I can tell you that's very mysterious, because there are so many people who I've talked to about that survey who can't even remember it being sent out again, which means that whatever means you were using to publicize it simply didn't get out to the audience. They said, "Oh, I didn't see it." Now, of course, I get a lot of that in my classes at UW, and so...
You said that? You really said that to Alaska? Did you really tell them that?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Trustee Kilty, not to belabor the point, but we use the formal communication channel as per policy of the board in multiple emails with all of those, and I was keenly involved with it when I first started, because we used those results in the HLC team that we took back on the AQUIP projects on campus climate and all that stuff when I first started here, and so it went out. But so it is. We're continuing it, and we'll continue to do that, and also use a nationally vetted tool, and we'll try to bring that continuity so we can always monitor the health of the campus climate. And
Madam Chair,
Yes.
new topic, okay? New business, but it's just more of a question, if I could ask it. I understood from some of the students at our table tonight that there is an activity planned by SGA for Veterans Day, and I was just wanting to make sure somehow that got a plug and people were aware that they were doing that. And I commend them for doing that.
And more information?
Well, as long as we're talking about information.
Nobody need more information on this? More information?
I got a new topic.
Well, no, we have to hear about the Veterans Day.
Madam Chair, trustees, I don't know, Judy, do you know what they're? No. And I know our student government president had a pressing thing tonight, or a priority to do that.
Yes, he's a rep.
It's a flag raising.
Oh, thank you, Ron.
November 11th, 8 o'clock, donuts.
Donuts.
Coffee, guest speakers. Okay.
Oh,
Great.
perfect. And where is the flag being raised? At the front of the building? At the front of the building.
Which,
Okay. Donuts?
Where's the signage?
Yes?
in front of the admin building?
In front of our
Darn,
gateway.
we should have that signage out there already.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
North.
North. Perfect. I have just a reminder, Marty Cizics her survey is out. The deadline is Monday the 11th, which is coming quickly. If you haven't taken the survey and you've gotten a gentle reminder, please do so. I believe she will do her presentation to us on the 20th. Is that correct? That she will be reporting back to us then? I think we decided we wanted to do it in the month of November.
That's true. Before
So-
Thanksgiving, so I'll need to follow
That is
up.
before Thanksgiving, yes. So we will be doing that as well. That night, we'll have Marty on the speakerphone, and she will be giving us the results of our survey for the campus. Okay. The last, yes?
I have another topic.
Oh, I have
Another
a-
announcement, if I may.
Switch.
Okay.
On this coming weekend, the men's basketball team is going to be playing in a tournament. This is the first ever tournament, I think, for LCCC to be sponsoring with the realtors here in Cheyenne. I think it's called the first annual Realtors Classic. There are 3 other colleges that are coming. I can't identify them right now. I don't recall who they are, but there'll be games on Friday and Saturday. And this is a fundraiser for Camilla Shelter, I believe.
And this is the one that's held at
Am I
Story
wrong?
Gym.
It's for the LCCC food pantry.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And this is the one at Story Gym.
It's at Story Gym, yes.
And we need to fill those bleachers up.
With
Okay.
canned goods, no.
With canned That's why I made the, yes, that's why I made the announcement.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate
You know, I
it.
thought a Realtor's Classic was a euphemism for a fixer-upper.
We knew we had you on the board for a reason. Okay, last is the resolution regarding community college completion. Did you all get this in your packet?
No.
You did not? Resolved, the Community College Name Board of Trustees officially endorses the following Wyoming Community College completion goal. The community college goal established by Complete College Wyoming in October 2013 is to increase community college certificate and associate degrees recipients by 5% annually with a base year 2011-12 and a time period of 10 years to end in 2021-22. That's their resolution. I know you want to say something about this.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just to provide some context behind that. As you all know, Wyoming is participating in the Complete College America Alliance of States. We have a team that's been formed and appointed by the governor. They are called the Complete College Wyoming team. They're the ones who drafted the white paper that you received, I think, via email from me that I referenced in the past and was the topic of the summit. One of the things that the team has recommended is that all of the colleges embrace by passing a resolution of a commitment to a completion goal. And the recommended completion goal at this juncture is that we would increase our completions by 5% per year over 2012 to 2022. It is a recommendation. I know that Steve Bamer, on behalf of the team, and I believe on behalf of the Trustees Association, contacted all of the chairs of the trustees to share with them that draft resolution and to have a conversation about whether or not that was something that the board wanted to adopt or to actually pass. As I told the chairwoman, I have not had a whole lot of time to look into that specifically. It seems pretty benign on face value, but I'd like a little more time to look into it. And if it's something you're interested in, I would come to you with a recommendation on the resolution or the commitment to the completion agenda.
So is this something that we would have a look at and vote on at our November 20th meeting, or would?
Madam Chair, members of the board, possibly, again, I'd like
Okay.
to do
Take some
my
time.
research and see and find out what the other trustees are doing. And Dr. Fierro is raising his hand,
Yes.
so he may be able to
Fierro.
enlighten us.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I was in a meeting today with the Complete College Wyoming / Complete College America group, and as of this afternoon there is a little bit of hesitation of a couple of the community colleges on committing to that.
Okay.
One of the closing statements of one of the VPs of one college of remain nameless for now was that probably their board will not endorse as of today. I don't know if that was just a say or that they have already had those conversations. but I think Dr. Chaffee is correct, that we probably need to do a little more research on this before we commit to it, because today I noted a lot of hesitation on during that meeting.
Madam Chairman? Madam Chair? In your research, one of the questions that comes up to me is this 5% something that has been thoroughly analyzed as an achievable objective? And secondly, is this compounded at 5%?
It is.
If it's compounded at 5%, you're looking at what, 70% to 80%
Exactly.
in 10 years?
Yep. 5% compounded.
That's
for
not
10 years.
50%.
Yeah, help me with my math, because I was hearing that it was 5% compounded for 10 years. It equated to about an overall 35 to 30-some percent.
No, I don't think so.
It will be
70%.
70%.
Over 10 years.
I didn't do the rule of 72 on it, but
Well,
you do it. You do it.
7% at 10 years would double.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
that's the rule of 72.
Well, I remember that from someplace. Did
You know
talk
what?
to me about that?
You're a lot smarter guy than I give you credit for.
That's the smash.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Trustee Erickson, I mean, I think there's been considerable conversation. There's a large amount of groups of folks that are out there that say this is a very conservative goal and it's almost too small. There's other folks that would say, no, if you actually run the numbers, there are some significant things that have to happen, not so much in the early years, and again, Jose, correct me if I'm wrong, but as we get out to year 7, 8, and 9, things significantly have to change in regards to retention, enrollment too, not just completion, to actually get to that level, and I think that's probably where some of the hesitation is coming from.
He's talked about whether 5% compounded annually is achievable, but I think in addition, and we had some discussion about this at some point here in the last month at a board meeting, I would like to know what's the rationale for it, not just whether it's achievable, but what's the reason for 5%? I just have this feeling it was pulled out of a hat.
Well, to me, it's a little bit, and you can correct me on this, but I believe part of the rationale is thinking about the number of people that need to have the credentials. So it's kind of working backwards a little bit from that is the rationale. Is that good rationale? No, not necessarily in my mind. And I think some of the schools that are concerned, are they not a little bit concerned because of just what somebody brought up here, and that is the front-end enrollment? Will enrollments substantiate, even if you keep those, do we have the enrollments that allow us to have that level of graduation? I mean, if you take a look at the numbers of students we now have and go 3 years out even and say, do they have the degrees and the certificates, and you look at whether those enrollments would increase to substantiate that kind of graduation, or you're going to have even a higher level of completion in order to meet those numbers.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, there was 3 or 4 different ways that we were trying to get to this number. In the end, I think there was some consensus building on where we might end up. One was looking at the very extreme levels of projected needs from the Lumina Foundation, looking at total population with a credential and jobs that require a credential. The approach that local folks took was looking more at current employment projections in Wyoming by folks out of the Department of Workforce Services, looking at both those that may be underemployed or undereducated for jobs, those that would be coming open. That led to a certain number. This isn't that number, and then there was a variety of debate and discussion, and to be honest, I think it was sort of an equalizing of what do we think we might be able to accomplish that isn't so easy that we just say it's not a goal, but still feels like it's a stretch. As part of my homework, I will try to get a better clarification on exactly that number and get it to you. And please don't take this wrong. I believe that committing to student success, committing to completion is important. I always worry a little bit when we start to lock ourselves into certain numbers without having that understanding and not looking long term. I'm interested in continuous improvement, and if we continually improve in the number of students that succeed, that achieve, that attain higher levels of education or abilities, that's really what I'm looking at. And so I can't say whether this is good, bad, benign, but I'll do my research and make some recommendations.
Madam Chair, in the context of that, too, I think it's important for us to appreciate that we're looking at a resolution, too.
Right.
And not a hard and fast commitment that says, you know, there's some kind of major foul ball or penalty for us if we're not at that. Am I correct in that perception?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, you can look at your own next meeting and events here on the agenda. And now I'm to the public comment section. Are there any public comments on items not on the agenda? Going once? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.